Hey everybody. Sorry I'm running a little late. Um, Windows 10 decided to do an update. Thanks, Southpaw. So I had to wait for Windows 10. Hi, Night Wolf. That's mainly what I am. Wait for a couple minutes here before we get started. Hey, Farndy girl. Little bit of action today, but for Invest 96L, not looking that good at all. Dealing with a lot of wind shear and the Saharan dry air and dust. Thanks, Molly. Hey, Tester. Go ahead and go full screen here. That's your overview of what's going on. Enslaver. Thanks for joining me. And to start out with, let me give you the last update from the National Hurricane Center. Now, the 2 day and the 5 day forecast, they only have 96L at 20%. Remember, day before yesterday, it was 70. Yesterday early was 50. Last night was 40. Now it's down to 20. It's not looking good. And notice that they kind of shrunk the cone up here. So it's not looking all that great. And I'll show you why. First off, let me show you a little screen grab I did of 96L during visible satellite. Now, I got this several hours ago. Now, there's several things you can notice here. Notice down here at the bottom, look at that haziness when the sun goes across. Play it again here. That's Saharan dust. When the sun goes across it, it reflects off that dust. So that's there on the southern side. Now, something else I want you to notice. And let me draw here. You'll notice some clouds going this way, but some clouds are going this way. Upper and lower level clouds. That's shear. I'll play it for you. There's your shear. It's really, really interfering with it. So that's one thing that's really holding it back. Now let me bring up my GR Earth. We'll take a closer look at this thing. Now I've got it in motion, so it's going to flicker as I zoom in. Now, from what it looks like to me, the center is actually over in here. Watch that spin in that area right there. That's where the center's going to be. And there again, if you look real close, you'll see some of the low level clouds going north as the upper level is blowing it south. That's the shear. And that's one reason why they've lowered it down. Now, I wished I could show you visible satellite. I'm going to pause this for a minute, and I want you to notice something. If you look here, there's some real hazy looking clouds. That's the Saharan dust. Now, earlier today, I was also seeing that in this area. And we've got some dust down here. Definitely got dry air. And like I was saying last night, the dust just dries that air. Sort of like when you get dust in your mouth, how your mouth gets dry. Now I'll switch over to water vapor. It'll take a little bit to load the frames up here. And all this brown, that is dry air. So if this thing is going to turn west-northwest or northwest, it's got to fight this dry air. And you can see coming off the coast here of Africa. This is Africa over here. Look at this area right there. That's some dense dust coming off. It hasn't dried the air out all the way yet. But it's really between the shear and the dust. The thing is moving into a lot warmer waters. And that's the reason why here on infrared we can see more storms that it's trying to form. But it's not going to get its act together as long as it's fighting that dry air and the shear. And you can even see the shear. Now this was the area to watch that I was talking about last night. See how it's just dried out and elongated? Again, we've got this dry air up in this area. And you can see what looks like dark clouds right there. That's the dust. But as I put this in motion, notice what the shear's doing. It's blown it south-southwest. And when we get back over here to 96L, and I'll really zoom in on it, look how the clouds... Hey, Lizanne. That's all right. I'm a little late, too. Notice how the clouds are going in two different directions, even though the spin is about right there in the center. That's due to the shear. Now, while I was trying to capture, let me pause this here. While I was trying to capture earlier the visible satellite during daylight, I caught something really weird, and this is cool. I've never seen lightning on visible satellite. Watch that zap from the right side going cloud to cloud, and then it starts sparking lightning off to the left. and different storms. I'll back it up here. There it is. Watch this right here. That's got to be lightning jumping from the storm to storm as fast as it's moving. I'll go ahead and put it in motion. I have never caught that on visible satellite. And while I was investigating, what was going on with 96L, I caught a glimpse of this thing. And it's like, what the heck? So I zoomed in on it. I'll play it again here. And it streaks across. Then it starts sparking flashes and different storm clouds. Ain't that cool? You know me, like I tell you guys all the time, I I really get excited by looking at the satellite view. Of course, can't see visible. Here's what the water vapor zoomed out. Let me go ahead and put that in motion. Satellite tells me a lot of what's going on in the atmosphere. Yeah, I love sprites. Um, I've only caught a glimpse of one time my whole life, and I wasn't sure what it was. That's when I was young, a couple hundred years ago. So let's go ahead and talk Pacific. Let me get the goes west loaded up here. Now here's something that's very interesting. Look at this swirl towards the top, about center, towards the top of the screen. That is a upper level low. That could be the next storm system that comes across to the U.S. But notice it's just sitting still, not really moving anywhere. But it's interesting. Ain't that awesome? Counterclockwise, that's a low pressure system. Now, in the springtime, when we're trying to figure out, where the severe weather is going to be, the dry line, and whatnot, to figure out where to chase, I'll watch the Pacific and watch these kind of swirls as they come across from over around Japan and that. And I'll watch them as the jet stream is moving them, and I can pretty well tell what areas of the U.S. Or Canada that they're going to affect. But that's cool. I rely on 1 to 2 weeks ahead of time during the springtime, looking, what's coming across that West Pacific area. So let's get in here and talk about the storms that's been out in the Pacific. I might have some visible satellite. Yep. Zoom out first here. Thanks, Southpaw Fox. Yeah, it's just so cool. Now, notice something here, too. See this kind of like faint circle going across? That's the sun as it's going across the Pacific. You'll see it going across here. It's already been ramping up. Still got two radars off of Tucson, Arizona, watching what's going on out there. Now, when we had that last eclipse, the solar eclipse, of course, it went across South America, down around Chile and that. So I didn't get to see it. But when I looked at satellite view, instead of this glare going across, I actually watched the shadow as it crossed South America. It was cool. Yeah, 2017 was cool. I got to see that one. Actually, a bunch of my neighbors and myself sat outside, and our landlord brought down some special glasses, that we could put on to look at it. It was cool. I didn't even have any idea that the owner where I live, he's also a lawyer, but he was into stuff like that. So he brought down some glasses, and we sit there and watched it. It was cool. So let's talk about what's going on. Okay, this over here, that's what's left of Hurricane Eric. It's same as done. This is Flossie, which is still a tropical storm. Then over here, now remember last night I said we had another area to watch. Well, it's now a tropical storm. It's Tropical Storm Gil. Yeah, we wasn't quite that close to the center of the path in 2017, but it was pretty good. It was about 99%. We got to see the diamond ring. So now we got Gil, but path to Gil. Let me go over here and we'll look at Gil. There's the kind of cone they got on it. Yeah, I did too, Southpaw. I was afraid it was going to burn my camera on my phone, but I got it. So this is way, way far away from Hawaii. So, and as you can see, it's tropical storm, depression, depression on Monday morning. And it's kind of curving left. But it's so far out, we got to keep an eye on it. But what is interesting, remember the other day I told you that from about this line, somewhere in there, is cooler waters to the north, warmer to the south. Because El Nino has got these waters down in here really warm. So since they got this cone kind of curving like that, it could start running into warmer waters next week. If it does, and it doesn't have any shear, then it could re-strengthen and it could do something. So it's still an area to watch. Now, as far as Flossie, I think it's going to say a tropical storm and then fizzle out too. And the reason why I say that, let me show you the forecast cone for Flossie. He's turning north, well, northwest. That's the cooler water. It'll skirt on the north side of the mainland or the main island in Hawaii. Yeah, I'll have to check that out from Franklin. But with this curling northwest, that's going to run into those cooler waters. So I really don't expect Flossie to do anything. It is neat looking. I mean, it's got a definite tropical storm look to it. But it's going to be fighting some shear that's over around Hawaii. And you can see that. Let me pause this. Notice these clouds here are moving that direction. Then you got some clouds down here that's moving that direction. I'll go ahead and put it back in motion. And then outflow from Eric is over here on the left, moving east. So there's some shear going on here, so that's going to help kill it. And I'll turn on the National Hurricane forecast, and you can see they're showing it here. It's staying tropical storm till it gets close to Hawaii, drop down to a depression when it hits its main area shear, and then curve back up to the northwest into the cooler waters. And as you can see here for Eric, it's going to pretty much stay a depression and just float away. And this is Gil. And they even have that after a few days here dropping off to a tropical, or drop down to a depression. So that's what's happening in the Pacific. Now I'll switch this over to infrared. And there's going to be another area to watch here. Let it load up all the frames here and you'll see it. We got this little something, just storms. No real rotation, and it's right behind Gil. But coming, off the southern tip of Mexico, that's probably going to be another area to watch right there. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Now I want to go back over to the Atlantic. I got to switch satellites, so it's got to reload everything up. Remember 2 nights ago, there was this awesome dark storm. The darker those colors, the higher the tops, the colder the tops, the higher they are over Africa. And a couple nights ago, it was looking like super strong. A lot of you guys were kind of amazed by it. And then this is it, stretched out over the water. That desert air just dried it right out. But we do have another wave. By tomorrow, this will be out over the ocean. Now, zoom in here. Notice these thunderstorms aren't really moving. They're kind of just meandering around. And this thing's coming headstrong right towards them. So they're going to join and, I should say merge. And they may, have a possibility. In the next few days, the National Hurricane Center will start keeping a close eye on that too. So 96L, man, it looks terrible. And look at the forecasts, green and red dots here. They no longer have that going up to Puerto Rico and towards Florida. They've actually got it curling down towards the southern part of Mexico, and that's all because of that wind shear and the Bermuda High getting squeezed out. No, Lizanne, I really don't think so. Eventually, uh, the desert and the dry air will calm down. Um, we're nowhere near the peak of the season. That's in towards the last of this month, August, and really peaks in the first part of September. So I do look for things to change. I mean, just stop and think of my last broadcast on the Atlantic over the last several days. I mean, when we started out with 95L, yeah, we had some waves coming off, but there's more thunderstorms over here in West Atlantic than what there was several days ago. So the moisture in the air is starting to take over. Now, do I give it personally a zero chance of forming? No, I don't. National Hurricane Center has 20% in the next 48 hours, 20% in the next 5 days. I give it, as of right now, from what I'm seeing on the models and everything, I give it more of a 10%. I think they're a little lenient or maybe cautious, and they know more than I do. It does have this spin. Right there is where the center is. There's your spin. So some of the shear, the low level shear, that where you see the clouds like right in there going north or north northeast, that's kind of blowing these storms apart and they're dragging out. I want to go back to that visible satellite again that I took earlier. We'll go over this again, but just watch how the clouds at different levels are going in different directions. There again, you can see the sun go across the bottom. But there you really, really get to see that shear. And that's a shame because I was really hoping for this one to do something. Now, I didn't want it to hit land, but I want to see it. I want to see it do something. Let's see here. Okay, let's show you the shear. Stop this. All hurricanes are so cool, especially the satellite view. Don't know if I've got the picture handy, but 2 years ago, when I was helping out with the hurricanes, I got some really nice screenshots of the infrared, and that thing was amazing. But all these yellows and reds is sheer. Now, let's see. Here's the Lesser Islands. So that storm somewhere in here, and it's got this shear in the south, some up to the north of it, like we've been seeing. It's stronger to the south, and like you've seen in visible satellite, the low level clouds and the upper level clouds were going opposite directions, and that's because of this right here. But then it's got to fight this shear, that shear. It just goes on and on. Let me see if I happen to have that on this hard drive. No, I do not. Check my backup drive real quick, because that is a cool picture. That folder, I know. There. That's from 2 years ago. Very visible eye wall. Don't ask me what hurricane this is, because I can't remember. Because we tracked several of them that year. Ain't that neat looking? That was one. For the name of it. I wasn't going to bring it up tonight, so I didn't bother checking my records. But I tracked several hurricanes that year, and I've lost track of names. That's pretty cool. And in case you're curious, some of the things that I do for a hobby, when, well, let's say before I became disabled, this was one of my projects. This was a race car that I built. I built all that myself, painted it, everything. That was one of my hobbies. That was 1,050 horse engine that had a blower on top. And I ended up making it street legal too, barely. You look back here in the back, you'll see I had to put wheelie bars on it. Here you can see at the back. Half throttle, it pulled the front wheels off the ground. My last project was this car, and I never got to finish it. I just got started on it. 65 Falcon wagon, but I never got to finish it. I just sold it. And from many, couple hundred years ago, this was my main hobby. There you go. That's what it'll look like when I was younger. Played drums for over 50 years. I was checking out some of my other pictures here. You really can't see me there. I'm back behind the guitar player. That was from the 90s. Before I started letting my hair grow back out. That's an all electronic drum kit, 18 piece, wrapped all the way around me. Yeah, rock and roll hoochie coo. Now this one here was in the 90s, early 90s. Oh no, would have been later 90s when I got the electronic drum kit. This one here, though, this was about 1970 or so. Yeah, that one. That one's in early 70s. Early. It had to have been either 70 or 71. Here's a real nice shelf cloud that I got here where I live in Southwest Ohio. That was 2 years ago. I could tell because that was the last time the farmer had corn over there. And just for Nightwolf, I've got several wolf pictures because I am wolf. This is probably one of my favorites. I is a wolf. A roo. Ain't that cute? Okay, enough of that. So that's all I have for this tropical update. I don't think 96L is going to survive. Hey, Stormy. Thanks for joining me, bud. It's not looking good. It's got some good circulation, but most of the storms are blowed off. Hey, Jane. Now, as far as what's happening here in the U.S., not much of anything. Other than Arizona. Let me stop this here. Here's Arizona. And I haven't seen any haboobs tonight. I've been kind of watching some of these storms out there in Arizona. Now, this is off the Tucson radar. Really not seeing anything. And how I can tell a haboob or dust storm on radar is I look at this mode. This is CC, correlation coefficient, which during severe weather, I use this to look for debris in the air. But when I see a haboob, I'll see a line coming off one of these storms. Just like, look at this storm. Now, I'm not seeing it. I would be able to see a definite line blowing out. I also use spectrum width. And what we have here. Nah, it's just condensation. Not seeing a definite sandstorm. Been looking for one. It's really cool to see. Somewhere I got some screen captures. Haboob is just another name for a sandstorm or a dust storm. And believe me, even in Arizona, a haboob, hey Brian, will get so bad that you can't see to drive. When I used to help Kerry Hutchins, Doc, out there in Arizona, he got caught in a haboob and he had to sit still. And afterwards, it was so bad that he had to change the air filter in his car. It's a little hard to show you without having one here to actually show you what it looks like. But it'll be a thin line, a thin red line pushing away from the storm. Sort of looks, I in the past I've showed you what an outflow boundary looks like when the rain cooled air pushes out in front of a storm. Mainly as the storm collapses. It'll kind of look like that, but it shows up in pink and red on my CC. If I happen to catch one, I'll do a screen grab and show you guys. It's really cool. So that's all I got for tonight. Whoops. Wrong one. Anybody got any questions? No, not really, Southpaw. On CC, it's looking for debris. And when the dust is pushing out away from the storm, again, as the storm does like a microburst, which dumps tons of rain, hits the ground, pushes out winds. It will push that dust because the ground's so dry out there in Arizona. And on CC, it just shows up at one thin red line. As I put it in motion, you can see it move. I'll have to see if I can. Oh, did you, Jane? Jane says she saw one on Nicholas Cook's stream the other day. I missed it. It's awesome to watch, man. If you're out there and you watch this brown cloud coming across the ground, coming at you, and then it just overtakes you, and the wind is really strong, and it's cool to watch on radar. Yeah, it is. When I helped Doc several years ago, it was really cool to watch. So, is there any questions about the tropical weather? Pretty much all I got tonight, because Things just ain't happening. Yeah, no questions. So I'm going to go ahead and call tonight. I will return tomorrow night. Same time, same place, same channel. Should be 8:15 Eastern time. I'm trying to, really stick to that schedule. Um, but like I said, Windows 10 decided to do an update on me, so it ran late. So, thanks everybody for joining me, and we'll catch you tomorrow night. Y'all have a good night.